Welcome to episode 135 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Talking About Points edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host Josh Fine, decked out in his Duval gear. I'm decked out in the owner of the car that won at Bristol on Saturday night. This also is a Southern 500 shirt since Bradley did win that race. So something to be happy about on both of our ends there, Josh. I know your Jacksonville Jaguars put an anal annihilation on the Indianapolis Colts. It made me happy that I did not take the trade that was possible with Vic because it would have involved my quarterback, who we'll have to talk about later, and I would have traded Trevor Lawrence, who had a great game, and I picked up Christian Kirk. So the reality is I still have a season. Even though I'm going to lose to you today, but I still have a season because I still have three quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's good. But I mean, yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars going out defeating Indianapolis Colts 24-0 at home in Jacksonville. So 8th year in a row that we've beaten the Indianapolis Colts at home, and we'll have to see what Indianapolis does. I think they should fire Frank Reich for sure. If you can't get it done like that, get embarrassed at home or away at their team stadium consistently, should definitely reconsider. But great victory and everything. Clearly, Jacksonville owns Indianapolis, and not only that, but in many other ways. Because I'm from Jacksonville, and I won the Indianapolis 500 on iRacing earlier this year. So that's just another way to state that people from Jacksonville, teams from Jacksonville, we own Indianapolis. So yeah, and plus one of my friends from work, big Colts fan, and I told him you can hold this L. You know that happened on Sunday. So as we speak, Tennessee Titans are losing 7-17 against the Buffalo Bills in Monday Night Football here on ESPN. So if they lose, then Jacksonville has first place in the division. So it's early season hype here for Jacksonville fans in Florida and around the nation. So great to be a Jaguars fan right now.
Yeah, and that also means that Josh is part of the silly season discussion since he's won the Indianapolis 500. That probably means he's in the silly season discussion for an IndyCar ride, but we'll talk about that later. The Philadelphia Eagles are up 14-0. Two touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, one passing, one rushing. The passing just now. So, if you like running quarterbacks, unless your name is Trey Lance, you're doing pretty well. Niners won big against Seattle. Really, really did a number on them, but Seattle did the number on the Niners early, knocking Trey Lance out, fractured ankle, out 4 to 6 months, out for the year. But I follow some FTTB ladies on social media, and to say that Faithful to the Bay, our hashtag, and to say that all these women were happy that Jimmy GQ came back in, the fans at Levi's were happy, and then Jimmy Garoppolo looked like 2017 Jimmy Garoppolo, at least for like 2 series, and then he became Jimmy Garoppolo again. But it didn't matter because the Seattle Seahawks suck, which just makes me happy to say. It couldn't happen to a better team. But Trey's out. It sucks for a lot of teams. It sucks for Vic's team since now he's lost his top 2 quarterbacks. So his defense of his title this year does not look great. I faded the possibility of trading for Trey Lance, and would have been, and that's another touchdown for Buffalo there. Stephon Diggs, that's his second touchdown of the day. Okay, in celebration. I'm glad that wasn't like a hamstring or something, but you don't have oh no, that's right. Professor J is Josh Allen. So he did that crap. Oh man, he left him wide open too. That is terrible defense by Tennessee. How are you gonna go? He literally just ran an out and up and oh, that's yeah. I met Stefan Diggs years ago after the Minneapolis Miracle when I went to the Super Bowl. He's a good dude.
Yo, it's getting close here in our fantasy league matchup right now because you just took the lead there on that touchdown.
He he threw oh man, somebody's trolling Jameis Winston. Well, when you consider how bad he played yesterday, um, that that would that would make sense to refund sub for Dane Jackson head-to-head collision. Oh, that ain't good. Helmet to helmet contact. Ugh, that's not good. Um, we'll update you on all the football, and we'll update on the fantasy side. I mean, Philadelphia, it's early in the game. It's only the second quarter for them. It's the third quarter for Buffalo, but that game is getting out of hand real quick. If you have fantasy implications, though, then that's one thing. The Houston assholes are going to win another game. The Mets are up against the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's some of the things because I've lost in every league. I'm 0-2 in every league. I mean, I'm fading a possibility of where I might be able to win, but we'll see. I've lost in my other two leagues. I'm 0-2 in both of those, and I changed my team names for all of them. Oh, Vix. Oh no, that's Joe. That scored 235. Okay, yeah. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about football for sure. Plenty that's week 2, but it's been a crazy week of football. Uh, a lot to get into. But NASCAR was at Bristol, elimination race, a Bristol night race. Saw Christopher Buescher break a 222 race winless streak. The only streak longer than that was Bill Elliott's 226 race winless streak. That went from the 94 Southern 500 till when he won at Homestead, I believe, in 2001.
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
so that's 7 years. In Chris Buescher's case, it's 6 years because there's more races, of course, now. But big win for him, big win for RFK. No playoff drive for teams won in this round. That's never happened before since this format's been put in. So we'll get into all that. 19th different winner of 2022. Tyler Reddick, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Austin Dillon, all out. Issues for more than just those guys with the load on the cars. The Toyotas had power steering issues. Bad year tires came through as usual, failing on a lot of Fords. Almost, and the terrible race control where they were calling cautions on certain flat tires but not on others. Probably cost Brad Keselowski a chance to win the race. We'll get in all that and who got eliminated, who's left. The news that we kind of mentioned last week, Kyle Busch made it official. He's going to RCR. Kyle Busch Motorsports is going to Chevrolet. We really don't know much. He's going to take over the 8 car. He's going to take over Tyler Reddick's team, while Tyler Reddick is going to get moved to a 3rd car, or at least that's what they say, with a charter that they supposedly are going to get, which when you consider some of the teams that are out there that suck, they might be readily available. Noah Gragson ran over Keebler Gibbs, and collateral damage was Sheldon Creed, who was trying to win and get in. In the process, both those guys are eliminated, opened the door for AJ Allmendinger to lock up the regular season title, get those playoff points. But Gragson won his 3rd consecutive race leading into the playoff opener this weekend at Texas. And we go over that with Jeremy Clements also making the playoffs after the appeal went through for them. So we'll go over who's in and who's out. Ty Majeski locks himself into the Final 4 for the Truck Series because they're in their round of 8 and wins his first career race. So they made the comment about all 3. I don't know if it was Chase Briscoe who posted it, that all 3 guys who were in that it was cursed 60 car back, I think, in 2018, and they crashed, I think, every single week. all three of them have won this year. Of course, Austin Cindric won the 500. Briscoe won at Phoenix, both in the Cup Series. And then, of course, Ty Majeski finally wins in one of NASCAR's three main divisions and gives himself a chance to win a championship here in a couple months' time or 6 weeks' time or whatever at Phoenix. IndyCar silly season. After we did our show, the news came out that Alex Palou is going to stay at Chip Ganassi Racing, but he's going to test for McLaren and older F1 equipment. And then Felix Rosenqvist is going to stay in IndyCar with Arrow McLaren SP. So he'll be the third car with Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi. So that's something there. And then we'll kind of get into some of the other players that have rides and who they might be looking at for the said rides going into this now long off season. We'll also get into Formula One silly season news with Nick DeVries being the flavor of the month after his one Formula One race. And looks like every single team that has an opening is looking at him. Logan Sargent, it looks like, based on certain news stories on motorsport.com, elsewhere, Road and Track, all are talking about him possibly being moved up by Williams if he can make it through the final two races at Abu Dhabi here in November in the top 5 in points. He'll be eligible for a super license. Speaking of super license, Colton Herta is not going to be able to get one, or he's not looking to be demoted in a sense in terms of having to run a lower series to try to earn points. FP1s, teams were looking at possibly putting him in, but wasn't going to be enough FP1s to go and make up the difference. And then we'll see who else is in play, what's going on with that. The roundup, MotoGP and Moto2 at Aragon. 2 Americans scored points in Moto2. Fabio Quartararo gets wrecked early with Marc Marquez's return to MotoGP, and basically it really tightens up that battle in the MotoGP World Championship. They'll be racing in Motegi this weekend. NHRA started their playoff at Maple Grove, and John Force Racing got the double in Nitro. Enders won for the first time at Maple Grove, and Joey Gladstone won for the third time in Pro Stock Motorcycles this year and retook the points lead. World Superbikes will be racing at Barcelona this weekend. Alvaro Bautista, of course, trying to maintain that championship lead. Toprak Razgatlioglu, the defending world champion, going to go back to his regular number 54 next year, no matter what happens this year. He's made a big comeback, and you can't count out Johnny Ray, who him and Bautista are now going to be fighting each other because Bautista believes that Ray crashed him out intentionally. Seems like what Max Verstappen did with Lewis. We'll also get into the fact that Garrett Gerloff, who has been at Yamaha and World Superbikes, is going to move to the BMW to a BMW team after Remy Gardner, the former Moto2 world champion, and the son of 1987 world champion Wayne Gardner, is moving to World Superbikes. So that'll be an interesting turn of events. See how that can work out for Gerloff if he can make that step forward. Extremity is back in Chile this coming weekend. I think I mentioned it a couple weeks ago by mistake, but they're definitely back this coming weekend. The battle for second in the points is very close, so we'll talk about those teams and those drivers. Of course, we'll talk about football. We already started talking about football. I started the show. We'll do our Cup and Xfinity preview for Texas Motor Speedway. Josh will do his sim segment, talk about all things iRacing and other gaming, and then we'll close the deal here. So Christopher Buescher went out there, won that race. It was very track position centric. This past at Bristol. The tires are so damn hard that you really weren't going to pass very much, and it was hard to pass. Really, there was only 12 lead changes among 6 drivers. Almirola started on pole, and it says he led. Where is Almirola? It says 2 times for 36 laps. Yeah, so and then he started from so Almirola led early, then Brad Keselowski made his way up there and had a good car, cut a tire down, won a stage, but in stage 1, Christopher Bell, who ended the first 3 races with a 40-point lead and saw that eradicated, lost 69 points once they did the reset, which is pretty awful to Chase Elliott. But in the end, those are the two dominant figures before Chris Buescher, who he led from he and it was basically those 3 guys. I mean, Larson led a few laps there too, but really it was Buescher, Christopher Bell, who felt like he gave away an opportunity. He had a win there. But in the end, he goes to the next round. Christopher Buescher gets his second career Cup Series win at the Bristol night race. First win for RFK Racing. First win for that organization since Richard won at Daytona in the July the 4th race.
1776 were the champs.
Yeah. 1776, we are the champs. I think it's 2017, right? I think that was it. He was still banging Miss Hummer then, too.
Yeah.
So, last time Roush won a race, so been a long time for that. 222 race winless streak, as I mentioned earlier. For Buescher is now eliminated. We'll go through the results here. Chris Buescher, the winner, and playoff drivers Chase Elliott, William Clyde Elliott II, Will Byron, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain were up there. Then AJ Allmendinger had a fast race car all through the weekend. Got a 7th place finish, proving once again that if they had actually put him if he had decided he wanted to run a Cup car this year, I think AJ Allmendinger would have been in the playoffs. I think you said that too at some point, Josh, but I think it's true because he's been really, really good.
Yeah, I feel like I may have said that at one point that Allmendinger would have, been in the playoffs or something if he was full time.
So, it's true, and you said it, and I think we've all probably said it amongst our crew, including Joe Passero. It shows how good he's been, and who knows, maybe that's why they're a little bit off on the Xfinity side because they put so much energy into trying to do all right here in the Cup side. Cold Custard finished 8th, so it's probably his second best finish he's had all year. Maybe his best finish he's had all year because he's been god-awful. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick round out the top 10. Kevin Harvick, though, needed a win, and he was only able to get to 10th. The Stewart-Haas cars were fast. Harvick started 7th, Custer 11th. Of course, I mentioned Almirola started on pole, but he had steering issues. Finished 28th, and then Chase Briscoe started on the second spot outside pole, got good stage points, and that was one of the things that saved him finishing 14th. He finished 2 laps down in 14th. There were only 12 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race, so it tells you how much carnage there was. Suarez finished 19th, Cindric finished 20th, and they both locked in. Joey Logano finished 27th with suspension problems, but still got in. Bubba Wallace had power steering issues. Phil Spain and his girlfriend Sarah, basically the Bubba Wallace fan club leaders, were at the race, got to meet Dak Shepard and Kristen Bell, amongst many race drivers.
Picture with Bubba and Ryan Blaney too.
Yeah, he had pictures of a lot of people, so he had a great weekend. But Bubba didn't have a great night. Uh, we'll talk about how that all played out. YRB had issues. Might be. I mean, they didn't say anything about him losing his crew chief after yet another loose wheel. But the fact is that that could have been he had issues for sure, and it could have derailed everything. But he had earned enough capital to get himself in. Alex Bowman wrecked early, but is still in the playoffs. But Tyler Reddick, who finished 25th, Austin Dillon, who finished 31st, Kyle Busch, who finished 34th, and with a blown engine, second time in 3 races. People are talking about sabotage in regards to that, as William Shatner would say. And of course, Kevin Harvick are eliminated. So plenty to digest there, Josh. But uh, Christopher Buescher, RFK Racing, winning 19 winners so far in 2022, and probably a good possibility of more to come, because we still talk about Martin Truex is out there. Now Kyle Busch is free rolling, and they're probably going to give him all the shitty stuff because he's leaving. And then you add the notion of Ryan Blaney, who's trying to figure out a way to get into this next round and possibly get into the final four. Those are two guys, and there could be 21 drivers that have won this year, which is unheard of in the history of NASCAR. But credit to Buescher and the job RFK Racing did this weekend. It was one of the best performances from that organization in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the best performances overall. I mean, I think, over the course of this season, the 17 and Chris Buescher has been, they haven't been running like up front consistently, but they've been running up front to be considered a wild card, in our eyes at least, as we make these picks every week. On this show, and he's been somebody who's been knocking on the door really lately, since the summer or so, or the beginning of the summer, that he's a guy that's been kind of running around the top 10, and occasionally competing for top fives, and we saw him emerge as kind of a favorite on the road courses this year, and we've seen a lot out of this car, and we saw more of it this weekend, and not only for Chris Buescher, but for Brad Keselowski as well. Brad hasn't performed all that well this season compared to Chris Buescher, but Brad finally had a good run, leading laps throughout this throughout this event, but had the flat tire and hit the wall, and then ended up being the first car lap down. So tough break for Brad, but probably one of his better performances here, in quite some time, since he took over the 6 car in RFK Racing. But Chris Buescher comes out and wins this race. Incredible performance, leading the most laps in this event, and taking advantage of some of the issues that other drivers had throughout the event. JGR had their issues with, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, even 2311, Bubba Wallace and Ty Gibbs had their issues with power steering. Kevin Harvick may have had a shot to win there at the end, but then, they ended up having issues with pit road and getting the left rear on, and then they had to back up the car and get it tightened up. And then, they continue to blame it on, crappy ass parts. As you saw, I think today Kevin came out with I guess a new merch item, crappy ass parts, Happy's crappy ass parts from Bakersfield, California. So, yeah, that's continuation of the theme of this year with the next gen not providing, or the volatility, I guess, with the next gen car having issues, whether it was with tires, or with parts or things catching on fire, and then also the drivers getting injured, I guess, or not injured, but well, Kurt Busch's case, yes, but getting or feeling hurt more than they have in the past. But um, we've continued to talk about that throughout this year. But excellent performance through through this race with the 17. But then Chase Elliott, kind of as the first of the playoff drivers emerging from this race. He had, I guess maybe if he had a couple more laps, maybe he could have gotten up to Chris Buescher. But, I think it was also kind of hard to pass after maybe a restart. Like once they got going, it was, kind of hard to get up there and take the lead from another driver. I think we saw it a couple times, but, you really had to have a good car like Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell. I think those are two best cars, throughout the race. So, yeah, this race was from a racing standpoint, maybe not one of the better Bristol races, and I think that's continuing to be a theme with the next gen car that it's not as good on the short tracks as it is on the intermediates. It seems like with this car, they really set out to fix the intermediate racing, which I think for the most part they kind of did. But then the other tracks have kind of suffered, so I guess they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board this weekend, or not this weekend, but next year and the off season. Danny Hamlin said who's gonna provide next gen 2.0. Well, I guess we'll have to figure that out here in the off season and everything. So um, this race, yeah, in terms of things happening, flat tires, blown engines, parts failures. That this was your race for that. So, yeah, a lot of that happening in that nature. Going back to Chris Buescher, I talked about it before in our picks. I picked Martin Truex Jr. Well, I was wrong in the fact that it was Truex, but correct in that we would have a non-playoff winner for the third race in a row, shutting out the playoff drivers for the first, three races, first round of this playoffs. So now, we got 19 winners now, which ties the most for NASCAR history. Last time, of course, this occurred in 2001. That was kind of a new era of NASCAR, a lot of new teams, and I think one of the factors in that one was the I guess the tire that they were running back in that stage. I forget. I think they went to a bit of a harder tire. If my history goes back to what they did in 2001, but that was one of the reasons why they had 19 winners, and this year, of course, 19 winners because of the next gen car. So. Uh, I think we will see 20 winners, and we still have the road course, Charlotte road course coming up, and Talladega. Ryan Blaney has not won yet this year, and I still think he's going to win a race at some point. I think he's good enough to do it. Martin Truex also still good enough, even being a non-playoff driver. So potential for possibly 20 to 21 winners here this season, which would set a record. So we'll see if that happens, but it shows how much volatility and how much parity is throughout throughout this series, and what's happened this entire year.
And there's more to come going to Texas. I mean, yes, they had the All Star race there earlier this year, thankfully for the final time. Uh, Blaney won that race holding up his window net, and I think there was a window net problem. I might be mixing up my races, but I swear there was a window net problem here. I think it might have been the Xfinity race. I think Buckshot Jones had that. Yeah. So there was window net problems. That's what happened to him at Texas, but he still won. Um, in regards to if he can go and win on Sunday, it would be huge for him and his season. Uh, right now, we'll just go into the points before getting Xfinity series results. The driver points now with the reset. Chase Elliott goes back to the lead, 15 points ahead of Joey Logano and 20 points ahead of Ross Chastain, 21 points ahead of Kyle Larson. So those are the top four. From William Byron in fifth to Austin Cindric in 12th is separated by 9 points. So similar to, of course, the first round, they don't reset the points back to their regular points, which is stupid to me, in my opinion. I don't know why they do that. They should just reset it back to what it was and not worry about it. I also don't understand why they have to keep on, zeroing it out and adding point. Like there's just stuff that they do with this playoff that just is dumb. But right now, Blaney is on the cutoff, tied with Hamlin and Bell, who all have the same amount of playoff points. And of course, Bell and Hamlin have won races. Blaney's only won stages, and he also has the bonus points that he got after the regular season ended. Philadelphia is now up 21-7. Buffalo just scored another touchdown, and looks like it was to Stephon
Yeah,
Diggs.
I think you win this one. Yeah, it's probably. I think Derrick Henry is damaged goods right now with his foot and everything. And Titans' offensive line has been terrible. And
I didn't know he
yeah,
got hurt that way, but
yeah.
it
Well,
sucks.
from last year, talking about from
Yeah.
last year, but still
Yeah.
suffering with that injury. But now you've taken the lead, so
And then you also add the fact that they let AJ Brown go for basically nothing. So now they're going to focus even more on Derrick Henry. So that's a problem there. I mean, to your credit, before we move on to the Xfinity, I mean, you had Tyreek Hill go nuts for 190 and 11 receptions for 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs is 12 for 148 and 3. I mean, Tyreek Hill even got a tackle yesterday because of probably a
that's
turnover.
true.
So he got a extra point there. He got 2 points extra on that. Simple scoring for Stephon Diggs. Uh, Quarterbacks were solid. Joe, my quarterbacks and your quarterbacks, of course, I have Trevor Lawrence. So we're basically balanced there. IDPs is where some of that bonus kind of went away. I mean, you had 29 points right now. I have 23 because Daniil Hunter's not doing anything right now. Uh, I'm trying to see who else. I mean, Jerry Jeudy getting hurt was big for you. Tight ends were basically a wash. Made a good pickup by picking Freiermuth up. Um, Eckler recovered after last week being terrible. Gibson was solid. You had Najee Harris. Yeah, I mean, so it's little things there in this game, but the reality of the world is you're one of the toughest teams as per usual. You had a lot of good players that had opportunities that did some work on the bench, so your bench is solid. So in the grand scheme of things, you're rolling. You'll be okay. This season, there's based on what I was looking at, there's only one team, which is Vic, who's 0-2. One team that's going to be 2-0, which is Professor J, and everybody else. There's eight. What is it? 8 teams at 1-1. So it's very early on. Something that isn't early on though is the Xfinity Series season. They're now in their playoff after um, the race at Bristol, the Food City 300, which saw Noah Gragson win his third consecutive race. Bruckshot Jones had a chance to move him, but didn't because he's a pussy. Um, Probably one piece is because he's about to take over that ride, but even then, I really don't know why you would move him. What does it matter? Just run him over and win a race. You'd gain so much in so many ways if you had done that. But Bruckshot Jones finishes second, Austin Hill third, Sam Mayer fourth, Riley Herbst fifth, AJ Allmendinger locking up the regular season title, as I mentioned earlier, in sixth, Josh Berry seventh. Best career finish for Stephen Parsons, driving for Alpha Prime. Justin Allgaier in ninth, led the most laps, but ended up not being able to move back up there. Pitch strategy and stuff didn't work out. He got wrecked there with the 66 car trying to lap him, and that basically was the end for him. Ryan Sieg trying to Hail Mary into the playoffs, finishes 10th. Great run for Bailey Curry in the 4 car, sponsored by Alka-Seltzer. Jeffrey Earnhardt driving for Sam Hunt, finishes 12th. Trying to see some here. Alfredo, Sammy Smith, Jeb Burton, Jeremy Clements, who will be in the playoffs, finished a lap down, 16th. Kyle Weatherman, 17th. The 02 had Sage Karam in there, Ryan Ellis. Daniel Hemrick scored points in both stages, but only finished 20th. Trying to go through here. Nick Sanchez struggled, but, he's learning. Landon Castle. I think Landon Castle made it on the bump there. And then you have Ty Gibbs, who qualified on pole, led 89 laps and got wrecked, as I mentioned, by Gragson, along with Sheldon Creed, who had taken the lead and led 34 laps, was trying to make a Hail Mary into the playoffs. Oh, Landon Castle missed the playoffs. Oh, okay. All right. So, well, I did not know that. Okay, there you go. Great thing to learn
he had
while
a
you're
pretty awkward interview post race with what's her name? Ken or not
Kim
Kenny.
Kuhn.
Kim Kuhn, yeah, Kim Kuhn. Yeah. The pretty awkward interview assessing missing the playoffs and everything, but yeah, Landon fell out because I think he had
By 5 points.
issues. So yeah, 5 points. So Sean gets in.
That is pretty bad. And honestly, to be fair with Landon Castle, he still was gonna miss the playoffs anyways, because I think even if Ryan Sieg doesn't move up and pass him, I honestly believe if Sheldon Creed had a clean shot to get there, he was going to win that race, because he would have wrecked Noah Gragson to do it, and that would have been enough, and he would have gotten in too. So right now, the points going into the playoff standings, or the playoff standings. I was curious to see what the difference was. Now, the points report, and that's the results. Gragson starts the playoff with a 13-point lead over Ty Gibbs, 18 on Allgaier, and 19 on Allmendinger. Then there's gaps after that from 6th with Austin Hill to 12th, which is Ryan Sieg, is 15 points. So that, and it's 9 points between 7th through 12th. So that's interesting to look at. Jeremy Clements is on the bump, 46 points back of the leader, tied with Sam Mayer, 2 points ahead of Daniel Hemrick, 3 points ahead of Herbst, and 4 points ahead of Ryan Sieg. So that'll be intriguing to see who makes the next round. Essentially, Gragson is on a roll. It's really a case of, is he going to spit the bit and choke this championship away, or is the battle between him and Ty Gibbs going to get crazy enough, Josh, where they run over each other and they kind of hand it to somebody like Justin Allgaier or AJ Allmendinger, which I think in the grand scheme of things, that's what they're hoping for, because the 9 and the 54 have been the two best cars. Those two guys are going to be in the Cup Series next year. We already know Gregson's going there. We are more than certain that that's a turnover for the Buffalo, for another turnover. Matt Milano just scored. This thing's getting out of hand.
Yeah, love to see it.
Tennessee Titans are getting destroyed, which means Josh's Jacksonville Jaguars are on their way to leading
First
the
place
division.
after 2 weeks.
First time since 17, right? When you guys win.
First time since 2018. So because we started out 3-1 in 2018, and
then it blew
the
up.
bottom fell out in the bottom. Yeah. Yep. So now sole possession of the AFC South here. So did not think we'd be seeing that in 2 weeks in the season. So we'll take it. That's part of the reason why I'm wearing my gear right now. But yeah, we'll glad to see it, but I kind of wish, hopefully Derrick Henry can pick up some yards here and just get me a couple more fantasy points, but we'll see. But I mean, to go back to Xfinity, Noah Gragson, he's continuing to dominate here in this series. As of late, really since the start of the summer, like I've said, but now winning 3 in a row, and of course, he bumped Ty Gibbs out of the way and took out Sheldon Creed as well. So, maybe that was strategic, or maybe he just misjudged it, whatever the case might be. But now, winning 6 wins on the year, so I think he's the favorite right now to probably win the championship, and now he's going to be able to go to Petty GMS as potentially the Xfinity champion. So, and he be in the same organization with Eric Jones and Dave Ellens, former crew chief there. So a lot riding on that. But I think these tracks really do favor Noah Gragson though, because he's decent enough on the 1.5 mile tracks. Although I think Justin Allgaier might be the favorite there. Road courses, the one road course he's done all right on. I think he's got a decent record there. And then Martinsville, in Homestead, he's done pretty well on as well. So, a lot of potential there for Noah Gragson. But I think if he gets into it with Ty Gibbs, like you said, gives an opportunity with AJ Allmendinger and Justin Allgaier, especially because we still have Talladega left, we still have road course left. That's 2 tracks where Allmendinger can be really good on in this series, especially the road course, and then Talladega, you have College Racing is going to basically be aligned the whole way and give him a chance to win. So potentially we see that there, and possibly maybe win the 1.5 miles. So still, a lot to go out here, and I think it's going to be a little bit more quality of competition, compared to the Cup Series. Although, Cup was very, volatile this past 3 weeks, but I think Xfinity, like we've seen this whole season, you're going to see the favorites come out to play here, and there's going to be a lot more focus on the top 5, I guess, in this series, compared to Cup. So, because right now you have the top 5 is Noah Gragson, Ty Gibbs, Justin Allgaier, AJ Allmendinger, and Josh Berry. I think correctly speaking, those are the contenders for this championship. Austin Hill potentially as a wild card, but we haven't really seen too much of him outside of the super speedways, which maybe could be a favorite here at Talladega, possibly. But I think those 5 are who you got to look at this championship here in Xfinity. So really, really excited to see what what happens in this playoffs, for these 5 drivers, and expect 4 out of these 5 to be the playoff contenders here. Coming out in basically less than 2 months at Phoenix in November.
Yeah, and before I add a little more there, Malik Willis from Liberty University, so the team, the sponsor that what is it? Will Byron's daddy works for that shitty school. Malik Willis is making his NFL debut in this blowout that is now 41-7 in the third quarter. They're going to halftime in the Philly game against Minnesota, 21-7. But Malik Willis making his debut. Derrick Henry has been hooked, so he looks like he's done for the night. So yeah, I mean, for this Xfinity thing, I think we've been saying it for a while. As it stands, the 4 that are the top 4, I have a hard time believing anybody's going to get into that unless somebody wins. There have been the 4 best drivers this year. The amount of playoff points they have proves that. I think if Josh Berry can get a little bit of momentum, I think Texas is a key race for him in that sense. If he can go and get that momentum and win, I think he can win at Talladega, but he's not, he's still learning the super speedways. Road course, he does not want to go to the road course having to get points or do anything like that. So I think Texas is huge for Josh Berry and that Junior Motorsports number 8 team. Austin Hill is banking on Talladega. Allmendinger, I would say, is like you said, Josh, would believe would be one where they want, and I know also Daniel Hemrick will want to do something. Now that Castle's out of the playoffs, he has nothing to lose, really. He's just trying to, and he's got a. I mean, he's got a 35-point lead for 13th, so he's still trying to maintain that. He could lose that position. I don't think he'll go any further than that, but Reed has been running well recently. So there's two Fords. So Herbst and C could possibly work together and help each other out. That might be something to look at. Clements is a wild card, especially once you get to Talladega. Texas, I doubt he'll do anything more than like run top 15. Bruckshot Jones and that Sam Mayer inconsistencies, part of why they are where they are. And Hemrick has not had any speed most of the year. Herbst has been better than where he gets reseeded. But, it's time that he actually goes and wins a race. If he does that, then he doesn't have to worry about it. But we will see. We'll make our picks later on in that. I guess we can go over the whole Kyle Busch announcement. They announced that he's in a multi-year deal with RCR. He's taking over the 8 car. He's going to have, what's his name, as his crew chief, the 8 team, Tyler Reddick. Yeah. So the 8 will be with Randall Burnett, and we don't know where their sponsorship is, but Reddick is now going to be demoted. It sounds like, where Casey Mears back in 2006 was going to get moved to a new team with no points. And then McMurray got moved over, and then he was able to drive the Texaco Havlin Dodge car before he went over to Hendrick Motorsports with his 2 BFFs. There's been other instances of like guys getting demoted in a sense, but Tyler Reddick is building. I mean, now he's gotten eliminated, so it doesn't really matter. If he had stayed in this playoff and had a chance to actually contend, and then you're going to go and tell him, oh yeah, we're not going to keep your team. We're going to make you drive with a new team. I find that to be a bit presumptuous and disingenuous, especially when they don't have guarantees. I mean, I know that Spire, one of their charters, is probably in play. Rick Ware Racing, one of their charters, is in play, and this is all from like DBC, or that's where they were talking about. They were saying 3 to 4 charters might be in play. So it's based on the performance clause that nobody really gets into, and the lamestream media that covers the sport won't get into. There's a performance clause that exists with the charters where you actually have to run within, if you run in the bottom 3 years in a row or every and then you're going to lose your charter. So the fact is Rick Ware has been swapping charters back and forth and all over to go and maintain, to go and end up keeping 2 charters. Spire's now in that business too, while also owning other charters. And then you add the 78 car, which is BJ McLeod's team, with what's his name, who used to drive, but got sick. Those guys are all probably in play where their charters might be in trouble. There's other cars I could probably dig into maybe a little more that might have a chance I could be in trouble, but those are the 3. And I would venture to say that Richard Childress is either hedging to make a deal with one of those organizations, or he's doing it as a ploy to put Tyler Reddick out there so that Toyota, who now let their most successful driver in a stock car go, basically for nothing, they're going to go and have to buy him out and buy out his contract so he'll take over the 45 car. Now, there's a Homestead test coming up this week, big tire test and whatever with all the teams. John Hunter Nemechek is going to be involved in that with 2311. So essentially what that means is they're hedging with John Hunter Nemechek. They're working under the pretense that they're not going to be able. They're putting it out there where oh, we may not be able to get Tyler Reddick, though I believe they could, out of his contract, and he would go to that third team, and they would have John Hunter Nemechek on standby if Kurt can't run. I don't know what you think, Josh, but I honestly believe we've seen the last of Kurt Busch in a Cup car. He might race something else, but I don't think he's gonna be running a Cup car ever again. I think he's gonna be in the announce booth. That he'll go to Fox and he'll work with Clint Boyer and he'll be a part of a 3-man booth, and that'll be his gig, and he'll be a part of 2311 as a whatever driver, coach or like personnel guy or whatever. Like he'll be a part of 2311 because Denny and him have built a great relationship. So he's not going away, and there's always been the you with Fox, they're always good for having people who have obvious biases, so it wouldn't be any different. And then he'll also dovetail Truck Series as well.
Yeah, with Michael Waltrip.
Michael, with that awful Truck Series coverage that Fox does. Did they pull Josh Allen too? Are we
Case
in
Keenum time.
Oh Christ. All right, I have to change the channel. Jesus. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
put
a
on the other
second
game.
Yeah, this is yeah, if you don't like blowouts on Monday Night Football, though Monday Night Football is good for those, you're not going to be happy. But if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, which of course Professor J is, him and all of his kids with his happy family he has now, that dude is probably like porking that his girlfriend now really really hard. Oh man. Um, let's see here. 2-1. Ah, dang it. 2-0. All right. No, that's not okay. It's not that one. We'll do that. Okay, so we'll be on the second game here, but I don't think I think Kurt Busch is done, and it's unfortunate. It's a byproduct of how bad the car is that his career has been ended that way when he was in a position, and when we see what Bubba did at Kansas. We've seen at times what Ty Gibbs has been able to do in this car. I think Kurt would have been a X factor in this playoff. Uh, he would have been somebody that would be real dangerous, especially in this round. Not only at Texas, but then at the Roval. But unfortunately, we'll never know. But yeah, I think he's done. I think Reddick gets into the 45. John Hunter's they're going to put him in a position, whether it's at Joe Gibbs Racing XFinity program or Sam Hunt's car, which is essentially the fourth Gibbs car. They're going to put him there for a year, and they're going to build him up, and they're going to have a third charter in 2020 through 2024, and he'll be in that car. Whether that's the 460, what is it? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 67 or whatever. I forget what other number, 30 something it could be, but he would be that guy that they would choose. Chandler Smith, of course, is in play too, and I think he'll be up there in the Gibbs Xfinity program. There's a lot to go through with this thing. I mean, it's not just the Kyle Busch aspect of this moving over the RCR, but the Tyler Reddick piece there's a lot of dominoes. And then the truck series as we know it is basically toast. I mean, it's been going that way, but this one move with Kyle Busch Motorsports switches the whole entire game. You look at the likes of Carson Hocevar, who's been a Chevy development with Driver's Edge. I thought he was a player for the 9 car, but they decided to take the money with Buckshot Jones. There are other people, Jack Wood, who sucks cock, I mean, there's two or three guys that fun Nice that can't drive a hot nail through snow. I mean, the reality of the world is the truck series as we know it is on its last legs. And the sad thing is they actually have a schedule that isn't awful. I mean, you can get into where they have so many gaps in the playoffs and things like that. The fact that they follow the Cup Series schedule is part of the reason why they have this issue. They could start their season separately instead of starting it at Daytona. They could run Daytona in July instead of running in February. I mean, that would probably help a little bit, but um, there's a lot that's going on with the Truck Series. We're not going to know what the Truck Series situation is at, but for the Xfinity Series, Gibbs doesn't have any drivers next year, though I do think Sammy Smith will be in one of those cars uh, because of Pilot Flying J and whatever, uh, because of that money. And I would assume that the Chandler Smith would be in one of those vehicles and that John Hunter Nemechek would be in one of those vehicles if they run three cars. If they run two cars, then I would say Chandler Smith and that John Hunter would be at the Sam Hunt car full time. And then he's being groomed to go and move to, or being set up to go and move up to run. They'll run an open car. Well, actually, they can't get away with running an open car because John Hunter's actually run a full season. Um, they'd run an open car for Chandler Smith and see how he does in the Cup Series, along with Sammy probably, and then that car will be set up to where more than likely John Hunter would be moved up there, Josh. But a lot of conjecture, a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, or whatever. But the reality of the world is Kyle Busch is going to the 8 car. He's going to drive for Richard Childress Racing. He got to hold the watch for Richard Childress. Richard Childress signed a $100 bill for Kyle's son Brexton, who can win in outlaw carts, just like his daddy used to win prior to winning his second championship and cup. It's a massive move in the history of NASCAR to see a driver of his caliber make that move. The biggest move, like this is the first move I can say that is since Tony leaving Gibbs to go run for Gene Haas and take over that organization. That's essentially what this is. That level, because if he can do what he wants to do and he's able to make that work, he could basically turn around the whole view of what RCR has been since passing a Dale Earnhardt. Yes, Kevin Harvick did good, really good there, and honestly, he did much better than a lot of people would have, considering how bad that team has been. But he went to Stewart Haas and became a Hall of Famer. I think he would have been a borderline Hall of Famer at RCR because he won those 2 Busch Series titles and he won a bunch of races. He won Daytona and all that, but he went to Stewart Haas and he became a Hall of Famer. But then that's what Tony said he was going to do for him. And he won a championship. And he probably has given away at least one championship, if not more. If Kyle Busch goes over there in this second part of his career, goes and he's able to make RCR relevant again, that could be one of the biggest things that's happened in this sport in a long, long time.
Yeah, this is a big move by Kyle Busch, and not only is he going back to the guy that beat him up back in 2011, but also taking over the number 8 car, which, well, unrelated to the 8 car from Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, it is the 8 car, and well, now he's getting into the 8 car after the guy who used to drive the 8 car back in 2007 went and took over his ride. So kind of a little bit of circle there, things coming back in full circle. But yeah, Kyle Busch now going to RCR. That's a it's a very interesting move, and failure on Joe Gibbs to secure sponsorship for him. I think they had a chance earlier in the season to get with Oracle, which is would have been a bigger new company coming to RCR, or well, to NASCAR, but they went with Red Bull and Formula One. More exposure there worldwide, I guess, and for a technology company like that, but for Kyle Busch now he's driving the 8 car, and we'll see what kind of sponsors are they going to come up with, and I'm sure that they'll probably have Rowdy in some kind of associate sponsorship capacity or something like that, and seems like there are a lot of sponsors that are willing to line up for Kyle Busch and RCR, and now there's an opportunity for a driver like Dale Earnhardt, who has kind of that same mentality that he did. Dale Earnhardt, somebody truly did not care, and wore the black hat, was aggressive. That's Kyle Busch for the most part, and Kyle can have that energy in the 8 car and bring this type of mentality to RCR that's been missing basically since Dale Earnhardt, maybe a little bit with Kevin Harvick, but certainly bigger presence with Dale Senior there. So um, with with that, and especially how Austin Dillon hasn't really been impressive, but got to give him credit because he was the one that got him into the ride for the 8 car. Basically told Kyle Busch, "Hey, let's come over to RCR," and that's how it happened. So give him credit there, but it's a big move, and huge loss on Toyota's part. And at some point you had to figure, like, who is gonna the future for Toyota, how that's gonna come out with, and uh, with Kurt Busch's injury kind of put things into question, because now you have Ty Gibbs ready to move up and probably gonna move up into the 18 car next year, prematurely or unexpectedly, but I think he's ready for it now. But uh, you got that, and then of course Tyler Reddick. Sure that they're gonna put him in probably like the number 31 car or something like that. In 2021 or 2023, unless they figure out and out, and Reddick goes to the number 45. I'm still under the assumption that Kurt Busch comes back. Unlike you, I feel like he might want to come back. Concussions, um, take long to heal. I thought maybe Dale Jr. was done after 2016, but he came back, and I do think though if Kurt Busch comes back, it'd be like with Dale Jr. He came back for 1 year only, just to finish things off, under his terms, and think that if Kurt Busch does come back, it'll be for 1 season only, to do the same thing, and then go retire and go off into the sunset, go with Fox and some capacity, and go with Denny Hamlin, like you said, and some executive or mentorship role over there in 2311. So yeah, a lot of things moving around, a lot of pieces that are beginning to solidify, and then other pieces opening up. So we still have a couple months here left in the season, so a lot that can play out as far as the future. With Tyler Reddick, of course, we don't know exactly what ride is he going to be in next year, but of course he probably will have a ride. And then got to think about the Xfinity series. What's that going to look like for Gibbs Racing? And then I think you also have to look at the Xfinity side for RCR as well. How does Kyle Busch affect their ability to run in Xfinity, and as well as trucks? Provides maybe a feeder entry for RCR on the truck side, and then Gibbs and Toyota basically used the truck series with Kyle Busch as a development platform there, and they basically are probably losing that. So that probably affects their ability to run younger talent like John Hunter Nemechek, or people like Noah Gragson, who drove for KBM back in a couple years ago. Christian Eckes, Chandler Smith, all these younger guys on the Toyota side who are still waiting for their shot in Xfinity, and even Cup. So we'll have to see what Toyota does to get back into the truck series, without Kyle Busch Motorsports. So so we'll see how this plays out, but yeah, a lot of big news coming out in the last week that we haven't gotten to, but it's going to be interesting, in 2023 with Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick.
And I think another piece to that is, even if Childress is serious about this third car, I don't think that third car is for Tyler Reddick. I think that third car is for Austin Hill because of the obvious money he brings to the table. That has been part of why he was able to move from whatever team he was with a few years ago. I think it was Young's or somebody like that. And then got into the Hattori Truck Series ride, and then went from Hattori to now RCR in the Xfinity Series. They like him. They gave him a shot at Michigan. He did all right. If they're going to hedge and add a third car, they want to have somebody that has potential in their mind, and it seems like they like Austin Hill. And I mean, when you consider that Austin Dillon sucks and he's just a waste of a seat, they need to have somebody that can compete, and they want more data. And I think Austin Hill's that guy. Sheldon Creed needs another year in the Xfinity Series, and they're going to keep him there because Whelen Engineering is going to sponsor him, so they're not going to lose that. And of course, he has his own funding too, so they can also subsidize a second ride with another driver there, so that can also be a play. Truck Series going into the next race, which will be at Talladega in a few weeks' time. But you have Ty Majeski is a first-time winner in the top 3 series. And then he locks himself in to the final 4. Ty Majeski is 23 points back after his win, but at the end of the day, it was the biggest win or one of the biggest. I mean, it's not the biggest win of his career, right? I mean, in certain ways, I guess you could say that. He's won the Snowball Derby. He's won so many races and super late models. But in this case, he's an employee of Thor Sport Racing. He was a mechanic before that. He was able to go and they were able to put a ride together for him. But now he's free rolling. He is now in to the final 4. Kind of puts the screws to everybody. I mean, Chandler Smith leads the points by 3 over Zane Smith. Those two guys, I think, as long as they're able to get through Talladega, they'll be in a good enough place. If they're able to acquire some stage points, even better. The real battle starts after that. Stuart Friesen has a little bit of a gap of points, 9 points over John Hunter, 13 over Christian Eckes. So John Hunter would have to probably win or make up some ground on Friesen. Enfinger, I think, would need a win along with Ben Rhodes to possibly get themselves in after this race after the race on Friday night. Chandler Smith led the most laps. Only 4 drivers led in this race. Majeski, who started 6th. Zane Smith, who started tailback. Derek Kraus, who started on the pole. And then Chandler Smith, who started on the outside pole. So and Chandler Smith won both stages. So good job by him. John Hunter Nemechek started in the back with Zane Smith, came back to finish 12th. So Majeski, Zane Smith, Parker Kligerman from 28th to 3rd, Enfinger 4th, Matt Crafton 5th. It's the kind of runs he needed to stay in the playoffs. Derek Kraus 6th, Stuart Friesen, Christian Eckes, Chandler Smith, Corey Heim round out your top 10. Still in the playoff run is the 51 truck, since they are in the owner's points. John Hunter, as mentioned, 12th. Taylor Gray finished 16th. Owner's points, they're still in with the 17. Ben Rhodes, 18th. The worst of the playoff drivers there. So not a whole lot went on in this race. There was early wrecks for a few people. Raja Karuth had a rough night. But grand scheme, Ty Majeski's in the Final Four, Josh, and it's a huge, well-timed victory. Same way as it worked out for Grant Enfinger at Indianapolis Raceway Park. This is a very well-timed victory for Ty Majeski.
Yeah, it's a very well timed victory indeed, and one thing about Ty Majeski is he's been around for a while. It feels like he's been um, since 2017, 2016, kind of been somebody that we were supposed to be watching in the late models, and then had this stint in Xfinity when he shared ride with Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric in the number 60 over at Roush. And, he has that sponsorship deal with iRacing, and thought, maybe he would turn into something in the Xfinity series, but, had a lot of incidents, and, ended up coming back to the truck series, and, hasn't really been much of anything, so far until this year in the truck series, and has been a playoff driver so far this year, and finally getting a first career win in NASCAR. So in the truck series, so good win for Ty Majeski there, and what a way to do it at Bristol, and for their team, they have a chance now to go throughout this playoff, and they have momentum on their side, and I think they could be a guy that maybe they sneak their way into Phoenix, as one of the drivers to win the title in at the end of the year, but he's still got a long ways to go here in this series. And they've got 3 races, or 2 races left before Phoenix, and so he's locked. Actually, isn't he locked into Phoenix now?
Locked himself in with his victory.
Yeah, so okay, so yeah, he is locked in and everything, and he'll be one of the championship 4 drivers here in Phoenix. So what a way to do it: win your first race and put yourself in potential position to win the championship, and that could be a good track for him. Being a short track, and have the potential to go out and claim your first championship as well. So it's gonna be a tough deal, I think, to do it against Chandler Smith and Zane Smith and John Hunter Nemechek, and all these other drivers here in the Xfinity series. Even Stuart Friesen, to talk about him, but yeah, this is a pretty good victory for that team, and what a way to do it. But the rest of the guys, Zane Smith, led 39 laps in this race, and finished in second. So still good on points. He's -3 to Chandler Smith in the standings. So good position, but a lot of time left, and you've got Talladega left in a couple weeks, and that could change things, especially with the way Talladega racing goes in the truck series. So would have I think for him, you would have liked to have seen him win to secure his spot, but I think this series, we'll see what happens at Talladega, and what what we're able to watch with Talladega racing, and who gets eliminated from this race, and has to win their way into the championship at Homestead, and it's gonna be exciting to watch. But glad to see somebody, iRacer, that fact, with Ty Majeski, somebody that has been around for a couple years now and hasn't had a whole lot of success being out to go out and win the race at Bristol.
Yeah, it's good to see somebody who's a real grinder and has worked his way up, and somebody who really is. He's a Wisconsin guy, so it kind of goes back to that whole. It started with the late great Dick Trickle, and you can connect it to so many other drivers. I mean, Dave Marcus, uh, Matt Kenseth, of course. There was I forget the guy that ran in the SRX at Slinger. And he won the Slinger Nationals. and almost won and lost to Marco. He was another one. But there's so many great drivers from state of Wisconsin, the Sauter family, all that ran out there, and now Ty Majeski's another one, comes from that area and ran the short tracks and the smaller type tracks and has gotten himself to this spot through grit and hard work, and it's a good story that will build up as we get towards uh, the Final Four here in a few weeks' time. The IndyCar series, of course, their series ended a couple weeks ago. Will Power becomes a two-time series champion, but there is plenty of intrigue in regards to uh, some of the drivers or some of the openings that exist um, going into next year. I mean, you have the team, what is it? Junkos Hollander has a second car with Callum Ilott running the first car, but Callum Ilott's going to have a teammate. They've got guys from Formula 2 looking at that ride. I think sports car drivers, whatever, that are looking at that ride. You have AJ Foyt Racing. We don't know what their makeup is going to be. I know the 14 car, of course, is going to be out there. I mean, there was rumor that J.R. Hildebrand was trying to connect. Him and AJ were going to go and buy a Porsche 963 IMSA GTP car to run in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, but that went awry. So I think JDC Miller is going to be a part of that program, and there'll be a couple things. So maybe that means that J.R. Hildebrand might come back to run full time, or maybe they'll get. I think the rumors were Marcus Armstrong, who's running in Formula 2, is a favorite for that seat. Of course, you also have Linus Lundqvist, who won the Indy Lights Championship, has money from winning the Indy Lights, so maybe he gets that opportunity. Maybe he's going over to Dale Coyne and Malukas, the Malukas team, since Henry HMR is going to have 8 cars next year in the Indy Lights Championship, which is ridiculous to think, but HMR is going to have 8 cars in the Indy Lights Championship next year. But Linus Lundqvist deserves an opportunity. There are a couple of rides that are out there now, but the 2 biggest rides that were open have been determined. We know that 2020 champion or 2021 champion Alex Palou will return to Chip Ganassi Racing in the 10 car, and Felix Rosenqvist, after a great basically since the Indianapolis 500, he's been one of the best drivers in the series, and that was an interception by Kirk Cousins. And now both those drivers are going to stay. McLaren needs a second driver in Formula E for their return with BMW Power, but it won't be Felix Rosenqvist, who had good success with Mahindra in Formula E prior to moving to the States with Ganassi. I guess, Josh, in regards to that, I think that's the big thing we have to talk about. The fact that after all the conversation, all the controversy that McLaren had with how they were going after drivers, Alex Palou stays at Ganassi. It was repaired after he destroyed the whole entire field at Laguna Seca. And Felix Rosenqvist will now be a part of a 3-car team at Arrow Spam next year in the IndyCar series. So that'll be an interesting thing to see how that whole dynamic works with Alexander Rossi joining the program along with Pato O'Ward, Rosenqvist, and then you add Palou staying at Ganassi. We don't know what Jimmy Johnson's going to do next year. They're trying to make the schedule out. As it stands, it doesn't look like it's going to help in regards to trying to run Le Mans. And I think he wants to run Le Mans with Jeffy and Mike Rockenfeller in that Garage 56 Camaro. So something to look at in regards to that. But two of the better drivers, two of the better talents in this series, in the end, after a lot of conjecture and a lot of print and whatever, they're staying put. What happens after this is more about, some of the smaller teams trying to get funding and trying to get engine leases and the like together to get the best field out there. And that's where kind of Linus Lundqvist is in limbo, unfortunately. For as good as he is in limbo. But we will see what happens with that.
Yeah, I think, with this, storyline that's been around since the summer with Alex Palou deciding to leave and go, initially go to McLaren, and then it's been a, PR battle, and, you know, both these teams, McLaren and Chip Ganassi Racing, they've been, fighting, in the court for the contract, and you had Palou looking bad on, on social media. A lot of, people were criticizing him, and then now they seem to resolve the differences, and Palou is going to stay, at least for 2023, going to stay in the 10 car at Chip Ganassi Racing. So it probably end up being, how it had to go down. Yeah, I think with the 10 car, they probably would have been hard to find a replacement for him. And then also on the other end of it, you know, could have had him into the 7 car, and then put Rosenquist in Formula E. But maybe it's an issue with having too many drivers in the stable. With especially in Formula One, with Oliver Piastri going to McLaren in Formula One, and with
Oscar.
Oscar Piastri in Formula One. So maybe it's just an issue of having too many guys in the stable at once, and um, you can't have too many guys like that, I guess. And you also with Palou wanting to have a chance at Formula One, um, may still be testing with McLaren, but obviously not going to be driving for them competitively. So that's maybe what the issue was there. And just grabbing too many guys at once, you got to let go of somebody. But that's resolved now, and then of course Rosenquist has another season in the 7 car, and we're going to see what kind of success can he put together in 2023 with the 7. They, like you said, they were one of the better drivers, and after the Indianapolis 500, and they didn't have quite the results that Pato O'Ward had, but he's a solid driver that can get good results, and have make things happen for that team. So really interested to see what he what he's able to do in 7, if he can get a win in that car. Obviously he's already won with Chip Ganassi Racing back in 2020, but hasn't won yet with McLaren. So be interested to see if he can add to the win column, just as Pat O'Ward has already added his name to the win column a couple of times driving for McLaren. So you got that, and then Palou, of course, have another shot to win in IndyCar, and go out and potentially get another title with Ganassi there. But there's been other things in IndyCar. Newgarden is gonna lose his crew chief, going to the Porsche collaboration with Penske. You have that. I'm trying to look for some of these other rides. They've IndyCar has set their official 2023 testing schedule. So there will be we'll be able to look at that and see when early season testing is, and everything. Um, you know, I don't really see any other things. I think we already talked about Juncos. I think because they already announced that they were going to expand to 2 cars. But this is maybe after Palou and Rosenquist. Initially, like, we thought there's going to be a lot of jumbling around in this series, but at the end of the day, I guess they decided to stay put and continue on. So maybe not as much volatility as what we thought there would be in IndyCar, but nonetheless, still one of the more interesting silly seasons, especially with the way that the dispute went down with Palou and Ganassi and McLaren.
And in the end, after all that with Zach Brown and the way things went, he got the guys that he wanted, and more than likely, he still has Alex Palou under contract to test older Formula One cars. He sort of has that same deal with Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward. So in the end, he still has those three guys, which are three of the most talented drivers on the grid. And he can hedge, even though he has one of the youngest driver combinations in Formula One with Norris and Piastri. He can hedge that with that. So he ends up having the best of both worlds, even though it didn't seem to look that way weeks before or months before. We'll find out about some of these other rides as the rest of the offseason goes on. But I guess that leads into Formula One. I mean, the thing was, Colton Herta is going to go and run for AlphaTauri, and he's going to get super license points and whatever, and he's going to go there. Well, One-Eyed Marco gave up on that and said that it would be too much work, take too much time, and because of that, they didn't want to deal with it. Colton Herta is still interested in trying to get to Formula One in 2024 when there are way more seats available. So that's something to look at. I also mentioned it in the uncensored Formula One show that I did with Tom Downey and Carl King, that Andretti would be wise to call Gene Haas and say, hey, how much do you want for your team? He was willing to pay 200 whatever million to go and make a new team, but Formula One doesn't want that because they don't want to split the pie 11 ways. Well, if he buys out Gene Haas, who's stopping him? It would take away a Ferrari Junior team. It would probably give, and then with the fact that Sauber is going to Audi, Ferrari would need a new customer effort, and I don't know who they would go with at that point. But the Haas team would change their ownership, and that might make a difference in regards to who would drive for them. And speaking of that, Nick DeVries, as I said, flavor of the month. Red Bull's talking to him now. That's their new target to possibly replace Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri and eventually move up to be Max Verstappen's bitch in the second Red Bull ride. But DeVries is in play for every team that has an opening. You have other drivers are still on the grid, but aren't at the level that probably is enough to keep them there. I mean, Latifi sucks. Stroll's never going to lose his ride, but he should probably be out. El Plan's going over to Aston Martin. You have Ocon at Alpine. Their possibility of Gasly moving over there, which would then open up a role for a prospective IndyCar or some other driver. Drogovic decided to sign with Stroll F1 instead of keeping his options open. I think that was a dumb move on his part. But Nick DeVries, Josh, is the guy that seems to have all the cards in his hand, and he's able to kind of dictate where he wants to go, which for a guy who's a little older, probably a late bloomer, something that doesn't really happen in this day and age of Formula One.
Yeah, of course. Especially Nick DeVries may have another opportunity here in a couple weeks with Alexander Albon still, trying to recover from his appendicitis surgery, which he's healed up from now, but still a bit of issues. They're recovering from that, and potentially may have to sit out that Grand Prix. So another opportunity for Nick DeVries to show himself in the Williams car in a couple weeks here at Singapore. So. I think it's gonna be interesting. If he can potentially score points like he did a couple weeks ago. So be interested to see if they're able to do that. You talked about the other teams. With AlphaTauri and Alpine. Sounds like there's a potential that potential for Pierre Gasly to go to Alpine. So that could be in the works. Later on. Going back to IndyCars, Alpine could be testing with Herta here in a couple weeks. So that's on the card as well. Herta, of course, still trying to get a super license, and there's been the debate there with the super licensing issue. So we want to see more drivers come into Formula One, but you know Williams, has a chance to get another maybe young driver, but slightly used from Formula E and everything. So good talent though. Certainly better than Nick Latifi. Haas could have an opportunity. If Mick Schumacher ends up leaving, or if Magnussen ends up leaving as well. So there's a lot still, I think in Formula One left to play, in the regular season, or the this season, then of course going in the off season. But you're starting to kind of see the early storylines play out, with this, especially with some of the younger drivers, up and coming drivers here in Formula One, and some of these teams trying to get their hands on these drivers while there's still the opportunity, and maybe hope for, especially with this new car, that they have these young drivers that can go out and maximize their potential both as a team and as a driver. So we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a interesting silly season in terms of the back of the field, basically, is what we're looking at. There's probably not going to be much happening in Red Bull or Mercedes or Ferrari, but of course some of the midfield teams and further back, there's going to be a lot of changes that we're going to have to look at as we go in the off season and next year in Formula One.
Yeah, and with the new rules where they have to have rookies run in FP1, motorsport.com has a good article by Adam Cooper talking about who's going to go where. De Vries is in play for not only Mercedes, but Aston Martin and Williams. Liam Lawson, Formula 2 driver, is probably going to be in an AlphaTauri, as Adam Cooper's talking about. Bobby Schwartzman will be running for Ferrari, former Formula 2 champion, but hasn't been able to get an opportunity. And then also his nationality seems to be fluid. Piastri with Alpine, that's gone away. Jack Doohan's in play for that opportunity. But they're also talking about Nick DeVries. McLaren has Herta, O'Ward, Palou. As I said earlier, O'Ward's going to drive in Mexico in FP1, so that'll be something. I would assume that Colton Herta would get that same opportunity in Austin. So Liam Lawson, DeVries, that AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Felipe Drogovic has joined them. DeVries is also up there. DeVries and Logan Sargent for Williams. Logan Sargent is going to run FP1 at the U.S. Grand Prix. Teo Pocher for Alfa Romeo. Somebody that can get in and do what he has to do. He's a young gun. You have for Valtteri Bottas or Zhou Guan Yu. And then the rumors for Haas are Pietro Fittipaldi or Antonio Giovinazzi, which is pretty god awful, considering you basically can do the same or maybe better with the Mick Schumacher, but I guess it's personal preference. Getting in the roundup here, Enea Bastianini won at Aragon after a fall, early crash with between Fabio Quartararo, the defending world champion, and Marc Marquez on return. Bastianini in a photo finish against his soon-to-be teammate Pecco Bagnaia. Alex Espargaro gets another podium for Aprilia by 0.2 of a second over Brad Binder. Jack Miller 5th. Ducatis were, of the top 10, 7 of the 10 were Ducati bikes, and it tells you how good their talent is right now at the moment. Hal Crutchlow snuck points on the RNF Yamaha. Remy Gardner in his last race for this team goes and finishes, he's running out the string actually, but he finishes outside the points. Marquez, Quartararo, Nakagami fall out of the race. Standings going in to Motegi this weekend. Quartararo is 10 points ahead, or 10 points ahead of Pecco Bagnaia. He's had 2 non-point scores versus Pecco Bagnaia, who has, I think, 4. So something to keep an eye on as we get to the end of the season. Alex Espargaro finishing 3rd, only 7 points right now behind Pecco Bagnaia, but has a good gap, 31 over Bastianini, 60 over Miller, Zarco. Oh well, that's where that is at. We'll see what happens at Motegi with MotoGP and see who can go and get the victory there. The Moto 2 standings are coming up for which saw in terms of results, saw Pedro Acosta get the victory over Aaron Canet and Augusto Fernandez, who's moving up to to MotoGP. Iaguro, Tommy Arbolino round out your top 5. Joe Roberts was 9th. Karen Bobier 11th. So good week for them in regards to the standings. Augusto Fernandez has a 7-point lead on Iagura, and then there's a huge gap. Aaron Canet is 40 points behind Agura for 2nd. Celestino Vietti, Tony Arbolino round out top 5. Joe Roberts has a good chance to get into the top 5. He's only 6 points back. And then Cameron Bobier, who's in 16th in the championship, just contemplating ways to move himself up. Go and move that over to Maple Grove for the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series. Austin Prock, the winner in Top Fuel. Robert Height, the winner in Funny Car. Eric Enders, winner in Pro Stock. And Joey Gladstone, the winner in Pro Stock Motorcycle. You had Top Alcohol, Pro Stock, Top Alcohol, Dragster, Funny Car, Comp, Elimination. I'm trying to see if there's that bike deal there. World Superbike, yeah, and then John Force Racing, as I mentioned. They ran well there at Maple Grove. It's a great track for that organization. Austin Prock gets his first win of 2022 at a great time, and then yours truly probably going to end up there tomorrow or someday just to justify what I'm seeing right now. The World Superbikes will be at Catalunya, Barcelona, Catalunya. 30 points separate Bautista over Toprak Raskat Lioku. Johnny Ray is in third. He's 17 points behind Toprak. And that's part of the whole deal. But it's a 3-horse race for the championship. Gerloff is 11th. Trying to go and see who else is on this list in regards to super bikes. They just randomly remove people. I don't understand that, but yeah. So it's something we'll see what happens between the battle between the Ducati, the Yamaha, and the Kawasaki head to head at one of the great racetracks in the world in Suzuka. Other piece of news to follow is the fact that Remy Gardner is moving over to the Yamaha team in World Superbike, leaving MotoGP for the time being, and Logan Sargent's kind of in play, which also leads to where they're going to go and start a guy who they probably could have drafted versus spending all that capital on a guy. But something we will see when it comes to World Superbike and what happens with that next week. Extreme E. Extreme E will be the next one, and they have plenty of people there that want to go make everyone look great. I mean, the Rosberg team is leading by 12 points over the Hamilton team, 15 over Andretti, 12 over, the fourth place team. So it's very dominant. It's very emphasized on going and destroying people, which is what we're doing, minus weather. So that's something we'll see in regards to the standings right now. The championship, 3 teams are separated by 2 points. The Sarah Price, Kyle LeDuc, Ganassi car, the Sands and Signs, Chiefs, and then Gutierrez and Loeb was going off there. They're only separated by 2 points. And trying to go and maintain that is very difficult. So it's something we'll see what happens with the Island or Copper X Prix this coming weekend. See if he does what he's always known for, the medicine balls. So able to go and make that happen, make it work, and go and get a W. Let me just go over here. I'm going to let you go talk about what you're looking at, Josh, in regards to uh, real football with your Jaguars now being 2-0, and also fantasy football. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about at the beginning, at the top of the show, Jacksonville Jaguars are Jaguars. I don't know why I say it like that, but the Jaguars beat the Indianapolis Colts 24-0 on Sunday in a very convincing fashion. And we can probably put Matt Ryan's career to rest. I think he's finished. He's cooked. Is on Sunday he threw uh, 3 interceptions on the day and took like 5 sacks and had a couple. I think had one at least one sack where he fell down on the ground and sacked himself. So you got one of those, and it's basically the end of Matt Ryan's career now. I think in Indianapolis, we'll see, but convincing fashion. Trevor Lawrence played solidly throughout the day. Took the underneath, took what the defense is giving him. Um, didn't have any like too many like highlight reel plays where he threw it, chucking it down the field like last week against the Washington Commanders with Christian Kirk and the 49-yard pass there. But this Sunday had 2 touchdowns to Christian Kirk, both in the red zone. Good play design by Doug Peterson, and excellent defensive play calling by Mike Caldwell. And then you also add on to the fact that James Robinson looks like he's healthy again. In continuing to get touchdowns, got a 37-yarder run, touchdown in the first half of the game. So really, really good, outstanding performance. And now I think the challenge is if they can go to the West Coast and defeat the Los Angeles Chargers at their stadium in Los Angeles. So it's going to be a really exciting matchup. Justin Herbert, really good QB. Chargers, have a lot of offensive playmakers, but Herbert is a little bit dinged up after last Thursday night. Had a issue, with his ribs, I think, or something like that, and affected his mobility and ability to throw for sure. So we'll see how that goes. If they end up starting Chase Daniel or not in the matchup on Sunday. So really excited to see how that comes out, because if Jaguars beat the LA Chargers, they last time that this happened where the Jaguars shut out the Colts and the defeated the LA Chargers back in 2017. They went to playoffs, so already in the division lead after Indianapolis, defeating them, Houston losing to Seattle somehow, and the Titans getting their butts kicked by the Buffalo Bills on the road. This is all leading to Jacksonville taking the early lead in the divisional playoffs, or in the divisional standings. So, you're seeing this play out right now. And if they beat the LA Chargers on the road in LA on Sunday, next Sunday, it's going to be a lot of good things coming out. And then of course they play the Philadelphia Eagles after that. So two really good matchups here early on in the season for the Jaguars if they can keep it up on the road. They two really good teams that been playing the last couple of weeks. So really excited to see how this comes out. Trevor Lawrence playing well. I think the next thing for Trevor Lawrence is can he play in a game where he has to win the game, and can he go out and win it like he had to against the Washington Commanders a week ago. Had a chance to game-winning drive, but came up short. Interception. Well, now he has another chance, or well, we don't know yet, but that's what I want to see is if he can, put together some game-winning drives, because that's what you're probably going to need in the playoffs there. So we'll see what happens there. But of course, 8-0 against the Indianapolis Colts since 2014. What's significant about that is that was the last time the Indianapolis Colts won in Jacksonville. was when Chad Henne got benched at halftime, and they brought out Blake Bortles for what we thought was going to be the start of a franchise career there. But ever since that game in Jacksonville in 2014, Jacksonville Jaguars have been undefeated at home against the Indianapolis Colts since then. So 8-0. And like I said earlier, Jaguars seem to own the Indianapolis Colts when they play at home against Jacksonville. So really excited, early season success, very convincing fashion, and ready to see what the rest of this regular season comes out for Jacksonville. And as far as my fantasy team, I lost to you, so good game there. We'll give a virtual handshake there, and good game there. We'll see if they make any adjustments. Hopefully Derrick Henry recovers next game, and we'll see how it goes from there. Tyreek Hill, like I said, top show had good drive there, good game, monster game. Derek Carr, good game. Mac Jones was trending like he wasn't having a good game, but then recovered to put on a solid game there. Probably should have started David Montgomery over Jerry Jeudy, but I went with the projected points. But probably a good idea to keep in RB1 as a flex. Over an RB or over a WR2. So good. A little bit of a bad decision there, but we'll take it and we'll go on to the next game. But we'll see what happens here. It's still early on this season, but we'll see. We'll see what happens as we move on throughout the rest of the season in fantasy. And if I have to make any trades or pick up guys on the waiver wire. So
well, Vic's gonna be looking to trade after this week.
He's 0-2, so yeah. We'll see what happens.
And for the right price, I'll trade Jacksonville Jaguars. So so that's always there. Was able to come back. I didn't think it was going to be able to come back. Thanks, Stephon Diggs. Thanks, Josh Allen and Buffalo for being what you are, being the best team in the NFL, probably. Philly is having with Minnesota. They're going to knock Minnesota off. Philly's going to go and take and Darius Slay has been very outspoken in regards to how good Justin Jefferson is, and Big Play Slay is actually showing up and being his name or nickname. So those people who had Justin Jefferson, it's not been the most beneficial night for you. We've lost in fantasy, or the only team that won in fantasy was my team in my league. So at the end of the day, I guess that's the one that matters. In the sleeper league that we're in, changed the team name. We lost. We're 0-2, which, ran into a team that had Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb. Yeah, Lamar Jackson, Nick Chubb, had Darren Waller, Allen Robinson, Curtis Samuel, all on that one team. So it's just terrible luck. We were streaming both Jacksonville running backs, I think. Yeah, we had Etienne. We have Etienne and James Robinson. Jonathan Taylor's productivity is going to go down a bunch, knowing how bad their Indianapolis offense is. Michael Pittman Jr., if he can't stay healthy, is also going to be a big problem for the Indianapolis organization and for players that have those players too. So that is that. Trey Lance getting hurt the way he did, I was angry because you should be running him outside. You should be trying to get him out in the flats. You should be trying to design bootlegs, go and design RPOs with a bootleg, not running him straight into the in interior of the line. But even Kyle Shanahan was going after what's his name, that troll Grant Cohn, about, oh well, Josh Allen, there's other teams, they run the same offense. I'm like, well, you're going to justify going and basically destroying your starting quarterback you spent spent 3 ones on, running gun runs like Jabu Lovelace, which is absolute garbage. You didn't give him the opportunity to throw the ball when you have Brandon Ayuk, you have Ross Dwelly, who literally, when Jimmy G jumped into the game, was able to go and make things work. And let the kid play. You weren't going to lose that game against Seattle. You lost the game against Chicago because of the rain and because of bad play calling, which is, Kyle Shanahan's thing. For as much as everyone talks about he's a genius, he ain't that much of a genius. His dad killed RG3. He was already somewhat damaged goods before he ever got to the NFL anyway. But in the case of Trey Lance, he doesn't have that much wear on his body. He essentially has 1 year starting in 1AA or FCS football, and he has the ability to do all the throws and do whatever is asked of him. So hence, that's why he ended up leaving North Dakota State to go and play in the NFL, but it hasn't worked out so well for him so far. But it doesn't mean it won't work out for him long term, because I think at the end of the day, Shanny and Lynch have the power to determine who's going to go where. My fantasy teams, as I mentioned, my secondary team is down 22 points, and that's mainly because my opponent had Lamar Jackson and Nick Chubb. Evan McPherson gets a casual mention, and there's with the special teams, it didn't work out very well. So that's what happens with that. With my team, original projection, at least we scored a few more points there to make it not about being in Dallas or dealing with those teams. But great victory by the Niners, recovering after Lance goes down and being able to just switch in and do what they were doing. Means once they're able to get a running back and they're also to get George Kittle back into the lineup, they're going to be able to contend. The NFC is wide open right now after 2 weeks. Lots of potential within this group, and something we will see here as the weeks go on. I mean, my team in the other league, I'm in the process of losing because they're in the fourth quarter, and I need 22 points from Dallas Goedert, and I know that's not going to happen. So I'm going to fall to 0-2 there. We're going to fall 0-2 in the sleeper league, but it looks like thanks to Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I'll be able to salvage a fantasy matchup against my bro and co-host. And Josh doesn't fall too far back. You're in 8th, but you're in the mix. You're essentially all the way up to where what's his Jeff is with his team, points 4, to see where that's at. Go over here. As the clock is ringing at 10 after, no less, because it's screwed up. Yeah, so right now, the current setup sees NFL Week 2, so we did all that right there, and then so we'll get into the Cup and Xfinity previews. Josh, I'm gonna let you go and start with that. First with Xfinity, let us know what you're thinking for picks for the Xfinity race on Saturday afternoon. First right race of the playoff. Can somebody in the playoff lock in, or can somebody get out of the that is outside go crazy, make that victory all the more incredible? Like what happened with uh, Brown in his situation. It's kind of because of days like this where you don't know what the heck's going to happen every single time. So let us know who you're thinking for um, for that situation, and to make sure everything is going well for those teams as they get into week 12 of the season. Well, not in the regular season, it's week 3 of the NFL season. It was like week 12 and elsewhere, like the Premier League.
No, yeah, I mean, well, we're talking about the Xfinity series, but in Xfinity, previewing it this weekend, no Gregson's won the last three races here in the season here, but he's um, been, I would say, pretty dominant, as we talked about earlier. But I feel like, he won't win this weekend. I feel like the winning streak comes to an end, but I still think that a Junior Motorsports car is going to win this weekend to open the playoffs. So, I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier. This weekend. I think Allgaier's been pretty solid on the mile and a half tracks. I think he's been probably the better of the you know playoff drivers on mile and a halves. Um, he's been leading a lot of laps there. Led 33 laps back in the spring. Allmendinger's been solid, but he hasn't really been up front in when it comes to the mile and a half tracks. Gragson, of course, successful as late, but I do feel like the winning streak is going to come to an end. And Ty Gibbs, on the other hand, he's been up there, but I feel like most of his victories came in the earlier part of the season in 2022. So even though he has 5 victories, he won earlier in the year at Las Vegas and Atlanta. Uh, won the road course in Michigan, but as far as the mile and a half tracks, feel like maybe on speed, the Junior Motorsports car has got it figured out, and I'm gonna roll with Justin Allgaier in the Xfinity Series is my pick. Uh, yeah, I think he's got a good shot there, but look out for the rest of the playoff drivers, especially the top four, like uh, Allmendinger, like Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson. Expect them all to be competing, but Justin Allgaier to be the one that emerges out in front of them. Um, I think for a wild card this weekend, I'm going to stay with the playoff drivers, but I'll go. I'll go with. Well, actually, I changed my mind here, but on that. But well, I'll stay with the player drivers actually. But let's pick Dale Hemrick as a for me at least as a wild card this weekend. He's been kind of quiet lately in Xfinity Series, and he's the defending series champion, but hasn't had a whole lot to say this year in Xfinity. But start out the playoffs here, have a chance to get out and have a solid finish and try to have a title defense in this series. So look out for that this weekend. Potentially, Daniel Hemrick, getting a top 10 finish in the Xfinity Series or something like that here at Texas. Which I feel like the racing, we've already seen it before. We talked before how bad it is, especially in spring, but for the Cup All Star race. But you know, maybe there's a little bit difference in the Xfinity Series, but I expect a lot of clean air racing and a lot of battles on pit road for position, rather than on track. And I think with that, as long as you have good track position, it's a track position race. So as long as guys like Hemrick, who may not have pace, as long as they get track position, expect them to finish well. Unless we get like a late race restart where they get shuffled back or something. But definitely expect him to be one of the contenders as a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, those are good picks. I mean, Allgaier is somebody who I think is going to be able to um, put himself in position to win that elusive championship that he's been chasing since he won that ARCA title back in '08 after Richard and Scott Speed ran over each other. Uh, for me, this weekend at Texas, I think Ty Gibbs gets the victory at Texas. Uh, it seems like the kind of track and opportunity where he'd be able to go and make it work. Gibbs has had great success there over the years. So I picked Ty Gibbs as my winner. And in regards to a wild card pick, I'm going to go and pick Ryan Sieg because at the end of the day, why not? Austin Dillon went and used track position to win a race there. Was it 2 years ago? If Ryan Sieg can put himself in that kind of role this weekend, he can lock himself into the of round of 8 if he goes and does that, which would be good for him and good for his business. So my picks are Ty Gibbs to win and Ryan Sieg to be the wild card going into this weekend's races at Texas. Josh, or we'll go to Cup actually. Yeah, the Cup Series will start their next round here at Texas. Want to go and bring up one thing here before I make an actual pick for what they're able to do in the last 10 races. Okay. So,
Sorry, can you repeat who you had for wild card or not wild card, but the Xfinity winner, real quick?
I picked Keebler to win.
All right.
And I picked Ryan
Yeah, and
Sieg
Ryan
as a
C.
wild card. And now we're working on the Cup Series. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with YRB. I'm gonna go with YRB to lock himself into the round of 8. Go and match his victory at the All-Star race, and that would be a huge deal for him and the Penske organization to go and do that. To get 20 different winners this year. My wild card is valid now because he's out of the playoffs. I'm going to take Tyler Reddick. He's good at this racetrack. He's been good in any vehicle he's driven there. You're able to run the high line up in 3 and 4. Because they fucked up 1 and 2 You're not able to do that. But Reddick's now free rolling. He wants to go and win with Randall Burnett before they get um, taken apart. So, what was it? Blaney and Reddick, which is safe on my end. Two drivers that I've liked. How about you, Josh? What are you looking at for the Echo Part Auto 500 at Texas?
Yeah, I mean this can be a track position race, and like All Star was really bad. I mean it's the one only mile and a half where it wasn't good racing throughout the entire race, but this was a really straightforward for the most part, and then Ryan Blaney ended up dominating the whole thing and winning that. So you picked him, so good pick there. Um, yeah, I would like to pick Martin Truex Jr., but I'll pick him instead as a wild card here, um, because I don't feel like he was going to be as strong as what I'd like to see uh, at Texas. But instead, I have to let's regress back to the mean and go with a playoff driver to win this weekend after three straight races of uh, non-playoff drivers winning. On, um, outside the owners' championship, of course, but um, I'm gonna pick Chase Elliott to win at Texas this weekend. Lock himself into the round of 8 in Cup. So Chase wins this weekend, and then I'll have Martin Truex as a wild card. Uh, if we get a new winner this year, which is certainly possible, but he's still got a lot to race for this season, and you know, Toyotas do drive well at Texas, but not sure if Truex can compete. But I do think he'll be a wild card. So
Valid, valid picks for sure. So before I guess the forum is yours, Josh, to go and get into the sim world and running iRacing and the like. Uh, Before we go and close the deal, you'll be able to go and talk about some people you picked. MTJ to go and be a wild card. You were able to pick. I'm trying to find where.
yeah, and
Yeah, so
William
you
Clyde
picked
Elliott.
Josh, William, Clyde, and to win. And then I don't know what the hell I did there with that typing. So MTJ for wild card. So
Yeah,
William Clyde Elliott will Clyde Elliott to win. MTJ. So let us know what's going on in the world of sim racing and like Formula 122 and the like. I know you like running them 87s, so in iRacing. So want to hear and see what's going on with that.
yeah. In iRacing ran the Mazda uh MX-5 Advanced Series and Watkins Glen with the boot, which I haven't ran in a while. So that was good. Um, ran out of gas in the last corner, coming off of the last corner. So um, didn't save enough fuel there. But good racing overall. The race was pretty tough, trying to maximize corner exit speed in an underpowered car um, with the Mazda, but still, on the back stretch before you get to the chicane, you get a big draft there. So it's a big opportunity to pass under braking with the big draft. So use some of those opportunities as well. Um, yeah, I think that was really the only thing I did this weekend on iRacing was been busy lately on the weekdays, but and a little bit on the weekends, but did that the Mazda MX-5 Cup Advanced Series on iRacing at Watkins Glen, and then this week what might be on the table, the 87s running at Nashville Super Speedway, so that might be interesting to not a it's it doesn't run like some of the other intermediate tracks in Cup Series. You definitely have to drive the track a little bit differently than you would the places like Kansas or uh, you know, Texas or Charlotte or anything like that. So it's gonna be a little bit tougher. So maybe I might try that. I haven't run that combination yet. Um, some road racing, Daytona Road Course with the touring car turn racing challenge, Honda or Hyundai Elantra TC, Honda Civic Type R, which I have. So maybe I'll do that. Another series running Daytona Road Course with the BMW M4 GT4. So potentially in the GT4 Challenge series, maybe run that. Um, a lot of road racing opportunity here too, and MX5 Cup at Laguna Seca. So may do that. Um, I don't have Texas Motor Speedway uh, in iRacing, the current configuration. I would like to try not to buy it because that place just sucks, sucks really bad. And I don't really like driving that track. The old one is okay because at least it's worn out and the pavement and the banking is even, so at least it makes a little bit of sense. But the new Texas does not make any sense at all. Um, and wonder what they're going to do with it in the future. But there's that IndyCar Open Racing Series at Michigan Speedway, the old Michigan Speedway, before the repave. So there's that opportunity as well. Um, IndyCar Fixed Series at Kentucky Motor Speedway prior to the repave. Um, Indy Pro 2000 cars at Watkins Glen on the boot configuration. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities here for racing on road and on oval. So whatever I get to race on the weekend, if have an opportunity, I'll definitely try and get on the sim. Which as always, if I stream, you can follow at Twitch TV/UCLR2. Go in there and see my racing and things that I'm doing there on iRacing or on Formula One. Um, been on PlayStation side, been playing a little bit Madden lately. As football season comes in, I tend to play Madden a little bit more, and try to play as the Jaguars against other people online, so they can get beat up by the Jaguars, even though most people don't play the Jaguars because their ratings are bad on Madden. But people like to play the big teams or whoever, or Lamar Jackson or whatever, because those are the fun teams. But I like to take one of the worst rated teams in Madden or one of the mid level teams and try to use your strategy and playing ability on there. So that's how I try to play. But I don't really stream on PlayStation, but maybe I might connect it one of these days and put it on Twitch. But again, follow Twitch TV/UCLR2. Go in there, watch my stuff, and of course, the socials, go on my social media at JP Huffine, all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and the like. Go on there, watch uh, look at my tweets and see me talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, talking about their division lead right now, and I'm gonna be uh, strutting that fact for the next week, and we'll see what happens next Sunday. But so it's going to be a fun week on Jaguar side of Twitter. All the people that I follow on there are really happy right now, and glad to be able to um, you know be a part of that community as well. You can follow our YouTube channel at Gripshare Podcast. Follow our videos on there, see everything we have to talk about the video version of this podcast. So go on there and watch our stuff. We've been a little bit behind. I got a little bit behind on posting videos. Been busy lately, but got everything up there is up to date now. So be hopefully this one be up on there soon. You can watch and see our stuff on there, and of course like channel, like videos, comment videos, subscribe to everything. So yeah, that's where you can find our stuff, find my stuff. Yeah, let you feel bring us to the close, yeah, thanks for having another show this week, and always glad to be able to talk on here with you.
Thanks for always covering for me and being my sidekick, man. Think I'm a little tired today. Didn't have a lot of rest, having to pick up mom from the airport. Feeling it at this point of the evening after two blowouts in football and some of the results getting decided way early, a couple going the other way. But I think both of our teams are going to be in this playoff series come week 14, just in general. That's something we'll see as we go along. Lance struggled badly, but he wasn't the worst quarterback that they had in fantasy. I mean, he only got, one target and one targeted tight ends. Something that we'll have to look at. But you can find us at GrifterPod on Twitter. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You want to talk about racing, sports, whatever, let us know. Go and hit us up through DM on the whatever home run tracker that exists. Go and let us know you want to be fantasy. You want to go and show a positive reinforcement. That's what you need to do. So, I'm assuming Gragson ripped the wall of third. It's the points battle, the X and Cup, and something that we will see. So, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with that, we will end this week's Grifter podcast. You can find us at Grifter Pod on Twitter. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can find Josh at JP Huffine on Twitter, posting shows, posting videos on YouTube, posting audio on Podbean, and also so we got all that there. We'll be back next week to do the episode 136 of the Grifter podcast, previewing Petit Le Mans, going and reviewing Cup and Xfinity at Talladega, along with NFL Week 3 review and more. Before we get in the next race. So that is what I'm talking about. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Take care. God bless and goodbye.